Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Let's see, let me get the right button. There we go. Thanks for joining us. It's always wonderful to see all of you. I know so many of you have been involved either in the Writing for Your Life conferences, the children's book conferences, or Publishing in Color. So, it's really great to see you all again. Welcome. So, this is a chance this evening to talk about children's books. Each one of these writer discussions groups that we have, we've had a different topic and different set of folks involved. So we're really pleased tonight to have Glenys Nellist with us. So Glenys, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, of course. What fun. I'm looking forward to it.
So for those of you that don't know Glenys, aren't familiar with her work, she's published a ton of really successful children's books, and she has a new one. little Mole Christmas Gift. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful book. So I'm really excited about that. And, we'll get a chance to talk with Glenys about that and lots of other books. But, fundamentally, this is just a time for conversation. So even more than any of the other sessions that we do, I encourage you to ask questions or, talk about whatever you want to talk about. Either, you can feel free to, raise your hand, unmute yourself, talk, verbally, or if you'd prefer to type something in the chat box, that's perfectly fine too. I'll read those off. But anybody have anything right off the bat that they want to talk to Glenys about, or just talk about in general?
Don't be shy. Brian, I just have to tell you that this house where I live, I love it. It's a great house, but the internet is awful. And so if I freeze, I hope I'll freeze with a smile on my face, but I will be back. So just, if that happens, just talk amongst yourselves and I'll be back as soon as I can.
Well, that's probably true for all of us, quite frankly, but sure, thank you. So Glenys, maybe you can just talk a little bit about, kind of where you've been. How you got into this whole business about writing children's books.
Okay, well, it's been an amazing journey for me. I still have to pinch myself sometimes that I'm here. It started for me, well, my first book was published in 2014, and that came as a result of attending a writers' conference. So, I'd written the book, and that was the fun part, Then I'm like, okay, how do I get this published? And so a lot of research, a lot of work, so I knew that really I needed an agent, or I needed to attend a writers' conference. And I didn't want to pay an agent. Also, I wanted to do it all myself, which was a little foolish, but there you go. But anyway, it was my husband. He said, you should attend a writers' conference. And so I'm a huge advocate for writers' conferences, because that's what I did. I just researched Christian writers' conferences. There were no children's writers' conferences. In fact, the only one I've ever been to is the one that you just hosted, Brian, which was wonderful and really well attended and shows the need. But this was a Christian writers' conference. I'm nervous, I didn't want to go, but it was just wonderful. It was kind of small. It was Maranatha Christian Writers' Conference on the banks of Lake Michigan. And so I Googled the faculty. I saw that there was a Zonderkids editor. And so, I signed up for my one-on-one, got my whole manuscript and proposal edited. So I was in good shape when I went, and that's how I got into the publishing world. So that was my first book, which became a series and then turned into another. And here we are now, and I still don't have an agent. So ladies, I think we're all ladies here. You don't necessarily need an agent. I'm living proof.
It's interesting though that, there are a couple of the publishing houses that we, have talked with that, some of which were included in that last conference, that primarily work through agents, even for children's books.
Right, I know. And I mean, a lot of my author colleagues say, well, they say maybe you should have an agent. I'm sure an agent could negotiate better rates for me. But I've learned along the way to negotiate. I've learned that you ask for more and you don't get what you ask for, but you get a little more than what they were offering. So I just don't know at this point if I need an agent. Although I did get a rejection today.
Really?
So maybe I do. Yeah. So it still happens. Here am I with 20 books. I got a rejection today. It's a horrible feeling, isn't it?
Well,
yeah.
Glenys, were you the one that, I apologize if this isn't the case, but
it's fine.
At the conference, the children's book conference we had, there was someone who talked about, I think maybe this was Kathy Bostrom, who got like 270 rejections before she got her first book.
Oh yeah, that wasn't me, Brian, because I'm just telling you right now, I would cave in, honestly.
I think it was Kathy.
That wasn't me, that was Kathy. That was
Kathy. And now Kathy, I think, has published 40 some children's books.
I know, and it's just a lesson, isn't it? Just don't quit. If you feel that God has called you to this and given you the gift, you just have to keep at it and don't give up, don't quit, just keep going. Yeah.
It's just amazing, the difference in everyone's journey of, how they got published.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Bethany. What's your process for putting your stories together? Do you sit at a blank screen and go for it? Uh-oh. She maybe's frozen. Oh, there you are. Are you there, Glenys?
Yep, I told you. I'm sorry.
So did you hear the question? You want me to repeat it?
I see it on the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, what's your process for putting your stories together? Do you sit at a blank screen and go for it? No, no. I'm really old, so I'm an old-fashioned writer. I kind of use those two things that begin with the P and P, a pen and a paper, if you've heard of them. I'm not really inspired in front of a screen, especially these days of COVID. I mean, this is fantastic, isn't it? That we can all it's wonderful that we can all see each other and because I see names of people that I know, but I feel like we're really meeting for the first time. So that's awesome. But being in front of a computer to me is it drains my creativity. So my best place always to write is outdoors. That's where I connect with God, and that's where I get my ideas, but always with a pen and paper. So I don't think I have a process. I'm not really a very I don't plan a lot. I'm more spontaneous. So if I have an idea for a story, I've got my pad and my pen, and I'll start putting ideas down. And it's what I really love about the creative process is I can start with an idea, but what I end up with is different to what I thought I was going to write. Or very often when I finish a manuscript, I just think, wow, where did that even come from? And I just think that's the Holy Spirit, that this writing thing, it's not, for me, it's the discipline of sitting down and getting words on paper. And then all these ideas come that I didn't have before, So I just think that's a mysterious, wonderful part of the writing process. Henry Nouwen said that writing is a mysterious journey because when you embark on it, you don't know where you're going to end up. So, yeah. I don't really have a process.
So what about a writing routine? Do you have a daily writing routine?
No, I don't. I'm not going to be very helpful to you ladies. I'm sorry. As I said, I'm just not, I don't really like routines, and I'm not really very organized. I'm just more spontaneous. And so some days I'll write all day and other days I won't write at all. And it's this eternal balance between marketing and writing, you know, that you probably are all familiar with. That's a hard thing for me. But the easy answer to that question is no, I don't have a day. It'd probably be better if I did, but also I have to be away from home. I do a lot of editing work now, and I find that in order to be creative, I have to sort of leave my workspace and go somewhere else, even if it's just on my back porch. Yeah.
Well, I think it's, you know, one of the big differences between adult writing and children's writing, because with adult writing, you've got to produce a lot of volume, you know, a lot of words, right? So at least some folks, you know, that do that you know, have more of a, you know, sit your butt in the chair, you know, get the words out kind of a thing.
Yes, I think that's so true. Whereas it's different for us who write for children, isn't it? Because like I always like to think of it as we're not so much worried about word count, but making every word count. You know, I think writing for children, I mean, some people think, oh, I'll be a writer and where shall I start? I'll write for kids because that must be easy. Well, we all know that's not true, right? But I think as children's writers, yes, our word count is a lot smaller, but you really just have to find a concise way to write meaningfully. At least that's always my goal. Yeah.
So here's a question from Sherry. Your illustrations are beautiful. Have you used the same illustrator for all of your books?
No, they're all different. And they're all wonderful, aren't they? Thank you so much. You know, I just can't take any credit for any of the covers or the illustrations, because that is all the job of my wonderful publishers. You know, some people ask me, do you do your own illustrations? And I always say, no, if I did, nobody would buy the books. You know, I can't. I'm terrible at drawing. But if you are published traditionally, it's the publisher's job. They just want your words. You're the author, and they will find the illustrator that they think most cements your words. And for me, all my publishers have, it's scary, you know, not to have a say in it. And it's like, suppose I don't like the pictures, but that's never happened for me because they've all been wonderful. Yeah. Now, if you self-publish it, that's different, isn't it? Because then I think you hire your illustrator and you get to choose who that's going to be, and you might already have a vision. But it's quite nice to be traditionally published and not to worry really about the illustrations, because to me that's just it's just always a lovely surprise when I get the illustrations back, you know. Yeah. So
that's a little bit different than the next question, which is someone, I don't think it's Robert Winalda, because it looks like a woman who's there. Hi. But she's saying, do you think there's space right now for authors who don't illustrate their work? Because it feels like everyone, agents and publishers, are only interested in author illustrators who come with both text and pictures. And that's not what I've heard. I've actually heard the opposite of more similar to what Glenys is saying, where, you know, basically the publisher wants to pick who the illustrator is.
Yeah. I'm right with you, Brian. I think it's the other way around, at least the circles that I move in. The traditional publishing world, from everything I've heard, publishers are more interested in your words, and they're the ones that pick the illustrators. Now, I think if you are an author illustrator, that's a wonderful gift, and I think there's certainly a place for that. But I don't really know much about that, because that's just not me. But I'll tell you a great person to talk to about that, that you could reach out to. He's very approachable, is Roger Hutchinson.
I was just thinking about him too, yeah.
Yes, he's an author illustrator, and he's visible on all the platforms. He's on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and he's a really likable, approachable guy, and he would be a great person to talk to about that.
But I know, based on things I've heard him say, that because he's an author illustrator and he wants to do both, he's had trouble, getting deals because, several of the people that he's approached have said, nope, sorry, we only accept authors and we'll find the illustrator.
Yeah.
That's not exclusively the case, but I know, he mentioned to me that he's encountered that several times.
Yeah.
So whatever, I don't know. So question for Marcia, do you send multiple submissions of one story?
Well, me personally, no, but you can. It's totally acceptable to do that as long as you tell the publishers that you are submitting simultaneously, just because it's courtesy, so they know. Like right away, if they read it and they're interested, they're going to jump on it because they know somebody else is looking at it too. So I personally don't. Like right now, I have 3 publishers that I'm published with, so I just take it in turns. I send it to the first one that I would like to. And then if they say no, like they did today, well, guess what? I'm going to send it somewhere else tomorrow. So I don't personally send them out at the same time, but I know that's very common, and it's fine to do that. Yeah,
and it may increase your negotiating leverage, right? I mean, because if you're getting a little bit more of a competition going there, they'll maybe pay you more and maybe do it quicker.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe,
and that's what we want. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So this is Blue Lime Art Studio, and I'm thinking, is that Lisa? I can't remember.
No, I think it's my friend Glenda.
Glenda. Hi, Glenda.
Hi, Glenda.
With your marketing implementation of it, best advice for a new author in the industry?
You mean specifically in regards to marketing?
Yes.
Okay. Best advice for a new author: build connections. I think I've said it before, but just surround yourself, immerse yourself in the kidlit world. So just follow like-minded people, follow somebody you admire, like if you like my work, and I hope you do, because you're all listening tonight, but then look who's following me and who I follow, and start there and build your connections and interact and support other kidlit authors, because we're a great group. I'm sure everybody on this call will agree with that we support each other, because it's a hard place to be in that rejection, and we've all been there. We've all had to start somewhere. So be my best piece of advice: build your connections and support each other, because the more you support an author, when you want support, they'll be there for you,
I've learned this myself, and Glenys is one of the ones that told me, but going through that conference just totally convinced me that it's correct, that this group of Christian children's book authors supports each other more than any other group of authors that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're very cooperative. They're not, treating each other as competitors at all. So it's just really a great community. So, and I can't enough back up what Glenys just said about the importance of relationships. And it's not just in this space. Every place in business that I've ever been, who you build trust with is absolutely the most important thing in the world. period.
Yeah. And the other thing is, Brian, what I would say about marketing is really, I think it's not the number of followers that's really important.
Hello, Glenys. Earth to Glenys. Hello, are you back?
I'm back. I'm sorry. What was I saying?
You were saying the numbers aren't important.
Right. Well, you know, everybody thinks you need, I mean, I know that publishers look for a platform, and it's hard because it's like, how do I get a platform if I haven't published a book yet, you know? So it's kind of hard knowing where to start. But to me, you can have 10,000 followers on Instagram, but if you're not getting the interaction, you know, it's not really the numbers that count. It's are you interacting with your followers? Are they interacting with you? You know, so again, it's relationships.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So who are the different publishers that you've used for your books?
So my first one was Zonda Kids. That was the Love Letters from God series, and I'm still publishing with Zonda Kids, like future titles. But the second one is Our Daily Bread publishers. They used to be
called Discovery House, is what she was going to say.
Yeah, did I freeze again?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Maybe I should go in a different room. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so Zonda Kids, Our Daily Bread, which were Discovery House, and then my third publisher are Beaming Books out of Minnesota. Yeah.
And so maybe we should like kind of explain the lay of the land a little bit in terms of the spectrum of publishing houses for children's books. I'm only familiar with some of them, but just like with adult titles, there are some that lean more evangelical conservative and some that lean more progressive.
Yeah.
Could you enlighten us on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little tricky when you start putting labels on
that's true.
on publishers, but I do agree there are more conservative publishers and there are definitely more progressive publishers. And so I would say Zonda Kids are fairly conservative. That's why they rejected my manuscript today, because it's not quite in line with their theology. But I still love them. It's all right. I knew it wasn't probably going to be a good fit for them. Our Daily Bread are also quite conservative. But then Beaming Books. So I guess I'm an interesting author because I'm published with progressive publishers. Beaming Books, I would say, very progressive. I don't want to bring politics into it, but you understand what I mean. So really, I can only speak for my publishers. I feel like Erdman's Books for Young Readers, they're a fabulous publisher. I feel like they're a little more on the progressive side, just because they're interested in publishing not just Christian books, but faith-based books for people of all faiths, you know. I'm trying to think who else there is.
Well, Flyaway, I would say Flyaway is more
on the progressive side.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think who else there is out there.
Convergent does some children's books, and they're more, this is a division of Penguin Random House, and they're a little bit more on the progressive side, whereas Waterbrook Multnomah, which is also part of Penguin Random House, is more on the conservative side. Yeah,
yeah, it's interesting, but it's good to know too, and because then you know where to pitch your, you know, depending what audience you're writing for, you know the kind of publishing houses to pitch to. Yeah.
And what about, there's Tommy Kids, right? That's
Thomas Nelson. Thomas Nelson, I think, are quite conservative too. They're kind of aligned with Zonda Kids. They're under the big HarperCollins Christian umbrella. Zonda Kids and Thomas Nelson came together a couple of years ago under that HarperCollins Christian and fairly conservative, I think. Although it's interesting because both, well, I don't know about Tommy Nelson, but Zonda Kids in recent years have really been interested in trying to do crossover titles that reach both the Christian and the secular market. So, for example, The Wonder That Is You, that I wrote for Zonda Kids, there is no religious references in that book. There's no God, there's no Jesus. I mean, God is right there in it, if you know where to look. But if you're not a person of faith, you would still buy that book because there's nothing to sort of offend you. Or, you know, if you wanted to buy it for an atheist family, you could do that because there's nothing in it that's going to upset them. So I think Zonda Kids are smart doing that because it means that they are reaching a broader audience rather than just the conservative Christian audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So here's a question from Beth. Would you talk about the process of working with your illustrator, if there is a process?
Again, as in my experience being published in the traditional world, I have very little say in the illustrator they choose, and then the illustrations that person chooses for each page. I feel like further I've got down the road, then I get more. We're looking at these three illustrators, and so if you want to give feedback, like is the one you prefer. But really beyond that, it is not your job to get involved in that. And I think because, you know, you could muddy the waters. I mean, you just have to trust the professionals. You know, the publishers, they know what they're doing, and they pick what they think is the perfect illustrator. And suppose I was to say, I don't like the pitch you did on page 4, can you change it? You know what I mean? That wouldn't be good, you know. So
here's an interesting, another comment from Ruth about, she finds that many agents are interested in author-illustrator combinations, or in the same person. Editors too. It's more economical for the publishers. Of course, their illustrations and text must both be great.
Yes, and I'm really glad, Ruth, that you said that, because who was asking about author illustrators earlier? Somebody was asking. Was it Glenda? It was Robert's wife.
Yeah.
Right? Kristen. Kristen. Hi, Kristen. Okay. Nice to meet you. Yes. Yeah. You know, so right on this call, Ruth Goring is a fabulous author illustrator. I know, because I just featured her book at the Children's Christian Book Conference. Hi, Ruth. We've never met, but it's so great to meet you. And so, yeah, what Ruth is saying is contrary. Well, just because she knows more than me, many agents are interested in author illustrators. Yeah, so, I mean, Ruth, do you want to unmute and talk to Kristen about that for a second? Because you know more. I don't know anything about being an author illustrator, but this lady does.
Well, I just debuted, you know, it was my first one. So I'm not a great expert, but I am seeing, you know, I'm checking into the possibility of finding an agent. And I am seeing quite a few agents that some of them, if they are going to represent picture books at all, they only want an author illustrator. That's, you know, that's not the rule by any means, but there are some people that say that. And I've also had an agent reject representing me, just saying that picture books are expensive and a hard sell. And that's more in the general market. You know, I think actually that from what I've seen, publishers are having a lot of success with picture books. So I know some that are starting new lines that I can't say anything about yet because it hasn't been, you know, they haven't been launched yet. But
I mean, that sounds like an agent who doesn't have the right connections, quite frankly.
Right, or maybe that's just not her interest, you know, and so she doesn't have that as a strength. And I just want to say also that with working with illustrators, Beaming Books, my first book, I was not an illustrator, and it was with Beaming Books, and So they hired somebody to find an illustrator because my book is about a Colombian child, and they wanted somebody who was Latinx to be an illustrator, and they just didn't have people in their circles yet. And I did get to see the dummies, all the sketches, and then the sort of more polished versions of the book. And they gave me a lot of freedom to suggest art and to say, could this be a little bit more such and such or whatever, and font size and different things. So they gave me a lot of say in it, even though I was not the person who chose the illustrator. But it was a very good experience. I'm sure not all publishers do that, but I think maybe it was because of the special nature of this book.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it just goes to show that, it probably depends on the book and the publisher.
Yeah, that's what makes me kind of curious. If there's these agents out there that are looking for that, then that means there must be some publishers, who are looking for that too. Whereas, the ones that, Glenys and I have been talking about and talking to, I've clearly got the message for them that they prefer author only.
Yeah.
So there must be some other publishing houses out there that's not the case.
Right.
I don't know who they are.
Me neither.
Honestly, I think that probably in some cases it's because they get too many submissions of, where especially where the art doesn't measure up to the text. And so then they just, don't want to encourage people to try it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's a question from Marcia. When will the list of attendees at the conference be available? So I just programmed an email to go out with that information. I think it's like early next week, but I couldn't tell you exactly which day. So what I've been doing is collecting from people, anybody that would send me an email from the Children's Book Conference. I put it into a little spreadsheet. And so I'm going to share a link to the spreadsheet. And then if anybody wants to add to it or whatever, they can. But I think it's scheduled to go out Monday, maybe. So soon.
It'll be great. It'll be great. Yeah, and for anyone participating in this conversation, Marsha is talking about the first 2020 inaugural Children's Christian Book Conference that Brian organized, and a lot of us were part of that just a couple of weeks ago, but I know not everybody was. So I want you to be aware of that, because Brian's going to organize another one in May, probably in May. And it was just so wonderful to network and meet new friends and swap ideas, fabulous speakers and presentations and Q&As and panels. It was wonderful, and it's the first children's writers conference that I've ever attended, and it was great. So if you weren't part of that, I would recommend it for next year.
Well, thank you, Glenys. May 10th. May 10th through 14th.
There we go. Brian has the date.
Online.
Okay. Put it in your calendars. It was the best. It was so good.
It was so much fun. I so enjoyed, hanging out with all of you.
Yeah. And it just shows the need.
Yeah.
There are a lot of writers for children out there, and it's just good to know that we're not alone and we're in this together,
So here's a question from Beth. What is the best way to write a kidlet review, on a blog or on social media?
Wait, let me just qualify that, Beth. Do you mean what's the best way to write it, period, whether you're doing it on a blog or social media, or is it better to do it on a blog or social media? Just qualify that for me.
How do you write the review on each place? Yeah.
On either place. Well, I think a good place to start is just to go and search out blog. There's a lot of children's reviewers out there who do a lot of reviewing of children's books, and just take a peek and see how they're approaching it. I mean, really, I think it's just best to be honest. Obviously, if you're going to review the book, you probably need to have read it. But you know, you can go to a library, or you can download it on your Kindle, which doesn't cost a lot, but it's probably best if you've read it. And then just be honest, and it's usual to state the publisher and the author and the illustrator and the age range that it's for, because people who are reading reviews are probably parents and they're looking for books, and so they need to know, is this for a baby, is it a board book, is it a picture book, what's the age range, and then just be honest, and probably not too long, because I mean, if you like me, did I freeze?
Nope.
Oh good. If you like me, the shorter blogs are better, you know, because you don't want people to lose interest. So I mean,
don't you think in general, I mean, if you're going to post an article about virtually anything, whether it's a review or something else, why wouldn't you post it to all of your social media channels?
Right, yeah, exactly. You put it
Website, Facebook, point to it from Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And then you're hitting all the markets, yeah. But I think starting a blog or a Facebook page separate from your personal one, that's a great way to, if you're an upcoming author and you're looking to get published, that's a great way to immerse yourself in the kidlit world and support other authors, and you know, start building your platform and your audience. I just think that's a neat way to do it, and you know, it doesn't take much, I don't think.
I mean, one thing that's kind of interesting is that Twitter, for whatever reason, tends to have more author to author and author to publisher, or author to editor, I should say, communication.
Mm-hmm.
More so than, I mean, Facebook does some too, especially author to author, but on Twitter in particular, there's more publishing industry people that hang out there. Yeah,
I know. Twitter's awesome. And one of the things I was going to throw out there, if people don't know about it, is if you're an aspiring author, or you know, you're an author already and you've got another idea for a book, jump on those Pitter Twitch event. No, not Twitch, pitch. Not Twitch events. That would be funny though, wouldn't it? A pitch. They're called pitch parties or pitch wars. And so just, if you're not on Twitter, you should just get on it. It's free, it's easy, and you don't have to have a huge following. You just have to be ready to pitch your picture book idea. There's one coming up on October 29th. It's just Google hashtag PB pitch, which is picture book pitch, and there's all sorts of rules about it. But basically, it's like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and you could pitch your books. And as Brian said, there are agents and publishers like Naomi Kruger. She said she's picked up a lot of books from unagented authors on those Twitter events. So PB pitch October 29th, and then hashtag faith pitch, that's on November 12th. So that's just, I mean, ladies, that's just like a free way to get your book in front of an agent or a publisher. Yeah.
So here's a question from Maureen. Do you submit a dummy with the picture spreads, or do you just submit the text?
Just the text. But I will say that my first book, Love Letters from God, because, raise your hand if you've heard of the Jolly Postman. Thank you, Amy. Oh, I'm glad somebody, yeah, and Sherry, good. The Jolly Postman, published in England years ago, 1984, it had real envelopes in the book with letters in. Yeah, and that was the inspiration for my Love Letters from God. I wanted envelopes with letters in. And so my brother, who is a writer, said, you must make a dummy, because that's quite an innovative concept, and they have to be able to see it. And so that was the one exception for me. I never submit any pictures or dummies. I just submit the text. But that first book, I did take a dummy, and it was a good thing, because I was such a bag of nerves. I made a complete hash of my pitch and said, here, look at this. And she loved the dummy. So that's what helped me get my first book published. So I guess it depends on the concept, or if your illustrations carry a lot of the weight of the book, then yes, it might be a good idea.
So here's a question from Sherry. When submitting, do you submit a full proposal or a manuscript? And where do you find the submission guidelines?
Well, most publishers are great. They're right there on the publisher's website. Like today I was on Erdmann's website because that's where I'm going to send my rejection, you know. Erdmann's are one of the few, Erdmann's Books for Young Readers are one of the few publishers that you can submit to without an agent. So you can send an unsolicited manuscript, but you just have to make sure you closely follow the submission guidelines. So most publishers, they have them right there. Flyaway have distinct submission guidelines. You can submit to Flyaway. But I would just say, do the work, do the research, and make it your best. Don't pitch until it's your best. So wait, did I answer that? When submitting, do you submit a full proposal? So it depends. You just look at those submission guidelines and you submit what they want. Like if you were at the conference, Naomi, who does not accept unsolicited submissions, but for conference attendees, she was accepting them through Brian, which is why you should all mark May the 10th next year. But, you know, she said, I don't need a full proposal. I just need this, this, this. It depends on the publisher. Some want the whole proposal and some just want like the comps, the comparable titles. Yeah.
So question from Marcia, for pitch events, how do you pitch without enough for someone to steal the idea?
I see this a lot, that writers are worried about people stealing their ideas, and honestly, well, the question is, you can't. You just have to trust. You're going to pitch your idea and nobody's going to steal it. And I mean, I don't know, even if they do, they're not going to write it the same as you. I don't really know what the answer to that is. What do you think, Brian? I don't know.
I don't either. I mean, because I've not done this.
Yeah.
I mean, my general inclination is not to ever worry about any of that intellectual property.
I know. You can't live in fear. You just have to hope that nobody does steal it.
Yeah. Could I ask another question?
Sure.
On that? If you have a series, do you just pitch the first story and don't say anything about the series, or do you talk about the series too?
You should always talk about a series. If you've got a series, that's a plus, and publishers are interested in a series. So I would just pitch it as The Wonder That Is You, the first in a book series that explores the wonder of a child arriving in the family, you know, so that you mention it's part of a series, but you're not going to go into detail. You just pitch in the first book, but they know, because that's Little Mole. That's how I pitched it to Beaming Books in the beginning, way back when they were open to submissions. I said Little Mole Finds Hope is the first in a series, didn't say anything else, and then Naomi came back to me and said, what's the second book in the series? So I got a 2-book deal. So yeah,
with the pitch though, how long is it, or do they give you guidelines when you pitch?
Yeah, what you want to do, Marcia, is go just Google that hashtag PB pitch, and they have a whole website with all the rules laid out, like how many characters your tweet can be, and like all the little hashtags that you can put in to support your so I would just practice now. Google that and practice good pitches. I think you can pitch the same title 3 times during the day, but you'd want to pitch it in a slightly different way. So I would just practice. And then,
Thank you.
Yeah, and then if you do that, anybody that's on this call, if you do that, send it to me in a private message and I'll retweet it
Thank
to
you.
help. Yeah, to help you get the word out.
Very
Yeah.
cool. So here's a question from Beth. Are there set age block groups for children and teens that the industry uses regularly?
Are there set age block groups?
Yeah, ranges, age ranges.
Yes. Yes. So like your board books are like 0 to 5. And then there's a little,
5?
well, or maybe 0 to 3 board books.
I thought it was a little bit lower. Yeah.
No, I think 0 to 3 for
Yeah,
board
no, I meant
books.
lower than 5.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so probably you're right. It's just that when I talk about my snuggle time, I always say 0 to 5 because that way you get more sales, you know. And then there's like a 3 to 7. But the most popular bracket for picture books is 4 to 8. Children age 4 through 8. And then beyond that is like your tween, and I don't really know beyond picture books because that's the world I live in, picture books. Yeah.
So, Beth, were you part of the children's conference? Oh, okay. I was gonna say there were a couple of different presentations where they specifically talked about this.
Okay.
But having said that, I've heard different numbers from different people, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They overlap, but
yeah.
but a good way, Beth, to look at that is just jump on Amazon and go down, you know, where they have all the specs of the book. They have the publisher and the publishing date, and then they'll give you the age range. And so that's a good guide. Just go there and look at that.
Okay, that sounds good. And I have written down those dates for 2021 for the next conference in May also. So
Oh,
thank you.
good.
Great, great. That's good. Oh, and there, Amy. Yeah, Amy House. Hi, Amy. We've never met Amy and I, but only, you know, online. But so she's saying, yeah, 8 to 12 is middle grade and over 13 is YA. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, Glenys, you and I have never met in person.
No. No, we haven't, but I hope we will one day.
Oh, we will. But it's just, you know, I mean, I consider us to be pretty good friends. You know, we're working together on multiple levels, and here we've never met each other in person. But because of this technology and, you know, mutual friends and everything, it's like, you know, you can establish a pretty high trust relationship
Yeah.
without having met in person, which, you know, is another kind of a watershed event kind of a thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's one of those silver linings in this COVID mess, you know.
All right, so here's another question from Robert. Hi, Robert. Hopefully this
Sorry,
is...
it wasn't a question. It was just a comment to the person.
Go ahead,
to Beth.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just telling Beth that just don't say for all ages, because for those of us who, my name is Kristen Winalda,
Kristen.
to answer Ruth. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kristen, is it Kristen or Kirsten?
Yeah, Kristen, K-R.
All right, Kristen. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you can't say for all ages because there's no book that's for all ages, really. So that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it really hard for me to sell your book when authors.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
Brian, did you see that on the chat from Natalie? Where's Natalie now? Wave at me down there.
What did
Hi,
Natalie
Natalie.
ask?
She was just saying that she was talking about faith pitch as
Oh,
opposed
right.
to PB pitch. Faith pitch is especially good because there's less traffic flow and you're probably more likely to be noticed. Yeah, faith. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, faith pitch is a good one, and that's November 12th. Yeah.
So
Oh, and somebody,
Bethany's asking about the name of your blog. Well, your website's just Glenys Nellist, isn't it?
oh, is she asking me? I thought she was asking the person that reviews kids' books. The name of my blog? Yeah.
Robert or Kristen.
Right. Yeah. She was asking Kristen, what's the name of your blog? Because she reviews children.
The name of mine. Am I allowed to say that? Is that
Yeah.
like
Sure, of course.
self-promotion?
No,
Okay.
it's fine.
I don't want to be. So I review at Big Books, Little Ears. So
Can you type that in?
BigBooksLittleEars.com. I can type it in.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Big books, little ears. That's awesome.
Yeah. And Glenys, I have some of your books on my Christmas lists, like on the blog, which are booming in traffic right now. So hopefully you're getting, hopefully the spirit of Christmas is selling some books.
Oh, well, bless your heart. That's wonderful. Yeah, well, I'll make sure that I'm following you then, Kristen. Yeah, I love the name of that. It's awesome.
So Kristen, I kind of hesitate to ask this in front of other people, but I mean, it's kind of like when I put together these conferences, I look for a diverse set of speakers, from the standpoint of different types of people, right? Different roles. So at the last conference, we had an illustrator, we had a librarian, we had a bookseller, we had a woman who is like a church ministry, person. I think it'd be a good idea to have a book reviewer, a children's book reviewer as part of the conference. So if you're interested in that, please send me an email and, let's talk.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not, right? I mean, don't you guys think it would make sense to do that? I'd love to learn, what a person in Kristen's role thinks and how they operate and what they're looking for and how to contact them and yada, yada.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes. Could we have an agent too?
Yes.
An agent or two?
Yes. I have this little list of things I'm compiling to do for the next conference. And that is like the top of my list in bold letters in red, to get agents. And, so I'm sorry there weren't any the last time, but, I'm new to all of this and I don't know any Christian children's book agents. So I've got to do some homework and I've got to, so anybody that wants to make a recommendation, please let me know because most of the folks I've been working with are like Glenys in that they don't work through an agent. Or if
You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Or if they do work through an agent, it's their adult book agent who just happened to do this children's book thing on the side. There's some examples of that too. So which I'm, for a children's book conference, that's not who I'm looking for. So I need to cultivate some relationships. So somebody, Adria Getz. I've heard that name, but I don't know her.
Yeah. She is really active on Twitter and she'll be scrolling through all those PB pictures. She's young, she's dynamic. She represents Karen River De Nira and I think Natalie Creech. Yeah, she's really good. Yeah.
And Jessica Schmeidler?
Oh, is Amy's agent? Okay, yeah. There you go. That might be a contact for you, Brian.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these relationships are by word of mouth and who I'm introduced to, quite honestly, because if I'm introduced to someone by someone else who I trust, like for instance, in Glenys's case, she was introduced to me by Jennifer Grant. And Jennifer and I have worked together for a few years now. She's spoken at my conferences. We've done other kinds of collaborations. So if somebody like that who I really trust, says, hey, Brian, you really ought to talk to Glenys or whoever, then, I'm going to go talk to Glenys. What I mean? Because if you trust somebody's judgment, then you're crazy not to take their advice. So anyway.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you did. And it's that networking, it's that building relationships. Yeah.
So Maureen is asking if you recommend joining scbwi.
Absolutely. Like somebody already said, like Bethany already said, yes, absolutely. Not only is that a fabulous place to network and find like-minded people, you get tons of resources, they have events. And also when you're ready to approach a publisher, when you're writing your proposals, that's something you can put in that I'm a member of scbwi, and that tells them that you are invested in your writing career, and that you're serious about it. So there's a whole myriad of reasons why you should join. Absolutely. And it's not expensive either. It doesn't cost that much. Yeah.
Everyone I've heard from on that topic says the same thing.
Yeah.
That it's really good.
Yeah, Ruth's just saying $80 a year. That's less than $10 a month. I'm not even good at math, but I know that's less than $10 a month.
Thank you, Glenys.
I don't know how much it is a month, but it's less than $10. SCBWI is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And if you just Google it, they have chapters all over the world, not just the USA. They have local chapters everywhere. So just Google it. And it's there. Marcia's just joined. Lots of opportunities. Yeah, good job, Marcia. You won't regret it. Yeah. And Janice is suggesting it. Sally, I can't say the last name, begins with an A. Is she an agent then, Janice?
A pocket deck. I think is how it's pronounced, a pocket deck.
A pocket deck, okay.
She still is, and I remember when she first started doing it, I was active in a writing conference at the time.
Okay.
I think it still is. I have to get the spelling for you.
Okay, thank you. So that's good, Brian. You have a few names that you can Google and look into. So Ruth is saying through her SCBWI, she's met some folks to collaborate with. Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? That networking and collaboration, and there's just a whole new arena, horizons that it opens up for you. Yeah, and Bethany, see, everybody's saying join. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, Glenys, is there any other words that you'd like to pass along to our friends here?
Well, I do want to recommend that you take a look at Writing for Your Life, which Brian began in 2017, right, Brian?
I actually began it at the end of 2016.
Okay.
The first thing I ever did was a webinar series in like September of that year.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first, out of the box thing that I had done for Writing for Your Life. But the first conferences were 2017.
Okay. Well, anyway, I would recommend you just visit that website, Writing for Your Life. And there is a whole ton of resources and writer services, people who Brian has worked with that, can do manuscript critique or editing or children's book consulting. And there's tons of free stuff. I don't know, I think I saw a nonfiction proposal template. There's just lots of great resources, and join his email list, because there's always stuff coming out like this. Like, how awesome is this, just to meet together and chat for free, So jump on Writing for Your Life and subscribe to that newsletter and check out all those resources, because they're really wonderful.
And all that started really more with adult books, and so I'm still kind of growing it relative to children's stuff. So what that means obviously is that there's things missing, so if there's resources that you all would like to see, I mean, Glenys, maybe you can help me figure out what that should be.
Sure. We could almost have like a separate tab or something for children's.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We just need to think about what should be there. I mean, there's a fair amount of overlap, but there's unique stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, well, thanks everyone for joining us. We do this every second Tuesday of every month, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and it's a different topic, different set of folks each time. But you're welcome to join us. Welcome to make suggestions, and really appreciate all of your participation this evening.
Thanks everybody for coming. Connect with me and follow me, and I'll follow you back.
All right. Good night,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Good
Bye-bye.
night.